to grab a drink. Maybe I'll do that really fast. I'm gonna grab a drink.
Do you think we won't have
struggles to join. Like it's not even like registered.
Hey.
It was the first time
I am not, but I am going to. But I went and looked at it on a closer up map just today to double check and see what we're talking about. So I'm looking for it. I will drive back.
Hello, everybody. If everyone will take their seats, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, appreciate you all being here. This is great. We're looking forward to an opportunity to explain how community reinvestment works and hearing from all of you. So we will start our, just a second, I can't see. I've got to take out a contact here. Okay. Okay, so just a couple housekeeping things so I can explain how our city council meetings work. These meetings are broadcast to the lobby. So if you have some conversations that you want to have or you want to have a conversation with your neighbor, please take it into the lobby. Our meetings are recorded. We live stream on YouTube. We want people to be able to hear who are at home listening. And so if we'll be respectful, I'd really appreciate that during the meeting. We also don't take shout outs or comments from the floor. This is a public hearing, so you will have an opportunity to come up and speak and share your thoughts with us. But we do ask that you be respectful. Please don't clap or cheer or boo. We want everyone to be able to feel safe saying whatever they want to say and not be intimidated by others who might disagree or maybe even agree in the room, okay? So we want to just make sure that our meetings are handled that way. Let's see here. Okay, so I will open up the meeting for the community, let me see, where's my words for this? For our public hearing for the Kaysville City Community Reinvestment Area Plan and Budget meeting. Really quickly, I'm just going to kind of give you a real brief summary of what we've done in order to get ready for this meeting. May 20th, 2021, the City Council had a meeting and we talked about community reinvestment money. And we talked about the process and how it would work. And we started this process in 2021. I was on the council and we had a different mayor, but some of the council members are still here who were on the council at that time. March 4th, 2022, Davis County Commission had a workshop meeting that we attended to talk about how this might work. September 1st, 2022, Zions Bank came and talked to us about how community reinvestment works. January 30th, 2024, we had a Davis County work session where we went to the commission again and talked to them. February 12th, 2024, the Davis School District invited us into a work session and we had a meeting with them to talk about community reinvestment. May 21st, 2024, Davis School District again, we had another work session to talk about it. November 19th, 2024, Davis County invited us back to another work session, so we talked about the CRA and how it could potentially work. November 19th, 2024, we presented before the Davis County Commission during their commission meeting, and we asked that they consider approving a potential interlocal agreement that we would still need to go back to the council and have a public meeting and prepare for, but they said that they would entertain that. And then today, January 2nd, 2025, we have our city council meeting and our public hearing. So I just wanted to let you know we have had 10 meetings so far over the almost 4 years talking about this. We're excited about this, and I will turn the mic over to Melinda, our Community Development Director. She's going to go through just a brief explanation about how this works, and then when she's done, we'll invite you up. So we do have a City Council meeting that starts at 7. Now, this is a public hearing. We want to have an opportunity for you to be heard and to share your thoughts. We would ask, though, that you keep your comments brief and succinct, and we would like to start as close to 7 as we possibly can for our City Council meeting, but we want to give you the time to be able to be heard. So I'll turn the mic over to Melinda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and everyone who's here this evening. I'm going to go through several slides, some of them very quickly, because I want to try and leave as much time as possible for the public to comment. But real quickly, I wanted to just share this slide that just shows a quick view of how tax increment financing works. So this slide indicates this blue area is the property tax revenues that would be currently generated.
Excuse me? Thank you, thank you. Noted, and yes, we can share information with you, but please don't do that. Okay.
We'll post these on the website. They'll also be on the live stream video.
Yes, you'll also see them if you look up YouTube, Kaysville Live. Yeah, you'll see everything there as well.
So when you start a project area, or you trigger a project area, that begins, this yellow area would essentially be an agreement between the Kaysville RDA and those taxing entities that said, for a period of time, we agree to give you a portion of our increased growth in property tax revenues. And then at the end of that project, all of the revenues go back to each individual taxing entity. I have this black line here to just kind of show, and all of this is like, in an ideal world, and if everything works the way it should, with the reinvesting of the tax increment back into the project area, we should see growth in the property tax revenues, not at all because of tax rates, but just because of the reinvestment in the area. So that's new buildings, that's improvements made to existing buildings. If that's all done in an ideal way and the end result is ideal, this area here would show a higher rate of property tax valuation increase than without the project areas. So this black line, let's say that would indicate a normal growth trend of property value without the CRA. When taxing entities agree to assign some of their property tax revenues, they do that because in the end, again, if everything works as designed, they should get a far bigger property tax revenue in the end after the project area is concluded. Let's see, let me go back to my other. So there's been a lot of information that's been put out there, and by parties not involved with the city, there's been some inaccuracies. So just wanted to start off with, this is what a CRA will not do. The CRA does not increase or impact property tax rates. That is just not how it happens. The city council assigns property tax rates. It doesn't have anything to do with creating a project area. A CRA project area does not impact zoning at all. The typical rezone noticing would happen if there were to be a rezone, whether that's inside the project area boundaries or outside. So no zoning will be changed. Also, a CRA does not obligate a property owner to sell their property or redevelop their property. That doesn't mean a developer might not approach a property owner and offer money to purchase, but you don't ever have to sell your property. Now that leads to the next bullet point. Essentially, eminent domain is not allowed with the community reinvestment area. There are some very narrow ways that eminent domain can be used, and it would mean one of the board members, i.e. a council member, is the one who the property would be condemned. Other than that, there's really not a way for eminent domain or condemnation to be used. The mayor just went over some of these dates, but here's just a visual of that. And I didn't have all of the dates the mayor listed, but this has been going on for quite a while, even before I've been here for 3 years. This started before my time here. So there has been multiple public meetings, whether it's with the city, the RDA, Weber County. We've also, so the red indicates a public meeting, the black indicates, these are staff level meetings with county or district staff. And then these items down here, the August 20th, September 10th, October 8th, we initially had agreed with the county commission to have this presented at those meeting dates, and for a variety of reasons, it did not happen until November 19th. And then that brings us to this evening. We mailed out 410 plus or minus notices on November 26th. We also, and this is anytime we have a public hearing, we are required to post a physical copy of that public hearing notice in the lobby. That was done on November 26th. We also have to post the public meeting information on the state's website. We post the public hearing notice on the city's website through our calendar on November 21st. We also notified the public in a post on Facebook on November 26th and another post on the 9th. I was able to mention this to the mayor earlier this evening, but we looked at the metrics on that meeting from the February 15th meeting, and after that post was on our Facebook page, we had about 140 people go and watch the meeting, or at least some portion of it. Next, we've had questions about why are we doing this? Well, this is a direct result of the feedback from the community during the general plan process, which began in 2020, and the general plan was adopted in 22. And so there's 5 different guiding principles that the general plan contains. One of those is to enrich our city center and downtown. The city also went through the process of having a statistically valid survey, and some of those questions that were asked with the survey are listed here. And those were, where would you like to see growth or redevelopment? And that indicates this area here in red. What type of improvements or potential changes would you like to see? Landscape, rehabilitated buildings, new businesses, additional parking. So everything in this plan really is a response to what the community expressed as wants or desires through that general plan process. We've also had questions about how the project area boundaries were created, and I'm going to just breeze past this, but this slide shows this concept here is what was identified through that public process with the general plan. And the Kaysville City Center CRA is not an exact mirror of that, but follows some of those boundaries fairly closely. The project area is 261.5 acres. Most of it is already developed. There's 66% that's commercial, about 18% that's residential, and then 15% that's vacant. The main roads involved in the project area are Main Street 200 North and then some area out on Flint Street. So when we are approaching the taxing entities as the redevelopment agency, we are asking them to contribute a certain portion of those property tax revenues to the city or to the RDA and for a period of time. So the city itself is a taxing entity, and to show our other taxing entities that we are committed to this, we have determined that we would participate at a rate of 80%, and then the city would keep 20% of the tax revenues that are in addition to what are currently being received. So this would not, I would not classify this as us taking away taxing entity money that they're currently receiving. They receive the same amount. They're held harmless by receiving that same amount. It's just the additional growth that comes after that base value. So we have expressed that we want to have this project area exist for 15 years. The trigger date would be 2025, and what that means is that's just kind of like the the year that we would start collecting those revenues. So we would trigger that in 2025, and then in 2026, if this gets approved, we would start receiving those tax revenues. We project over the course of the 15 years that the agency could receive about 5.1 million. There is a cap in these documents that would, or the documents from the county that said we would not receive any more than $10 million over that 15-year period. So if we received, if we capped out at the 10 million at year 8, then the project area essentially would be concluded. Or if at the end of 15 years we didn't get to 10 million, it still concludes because that's the expiration date for the project area. So this is a slide that just kind of shows the projections that Zions Bank Public Finance did with the ideal way, if it redevelops, these are what the incremental revenues would be generated over that 15 years. So to go back to that participation rate where we're asking our taxing entities to participate at 60% with the community reinvestment area, but they would keep 40%. So it's easier for me to do math with round numbers. So that would mean if we round this up to $1 million, Davis County over that 15 years, 600,000 of that would be going to the CRA, and 400,000 or 40% would be kept with the county. But that again is above and beyond what they are currently receiving. So this just kind of shows the projected amounts, and as always, the school district is the taxing entity that receives by far the most tax revenues than any other taxing entity. So, over the 15 years, the revenues projected to be 8.3 million, and then the corresponding percentages of that would be going to the taxing entities, the 40%, the 60% to the CRA, and with the city it would be that 80-20 split. This is the projection then of what the incremental tax revenues would look like to the agency, meaning the RDA. We have some administrative fees that would be set aside. The county would also set aside administration fees, and this just helps offset over that 15 years the costs that we would have with maybe outside legal counsel reviewing items or hiring consultants to help. And then state law requires that a housing set aside be made 10% of whatever those revenues that go to the agency. Those housing set aside revenues can be used outside of the project area, which is different from the other revenues. They have to be used within the project area or have a very direct value or improvement to the project area. And so, but the housing can be used anywhere within the city. And the state assesses a homeless shelter fee to cities that do not have a homeless shelter. Sorry, I even said those words. But we could use this housing set aside to pay that assessment. I'm not sure what that is, but we could also use, a lot of cities will give that money over to the state, the Olene Walker Fund. We have committed in our general plan to use that money to create an employee assistance down payment program that could help our own employees be able to have housing in Kaysville. So that would be the plan. So I summarized from the document kind of these categories of project area improvements, and I understand that the math on this does not add up to the amount of money that we may receive. But this is kind of a laundry list of everything that we could perceive money being used for. So Main Street improvements, landscaping, which again goes back to what residents commented in that survey that they wanted. We could have sidewalk improvements, open space, parking, historic preservation opportunities, facade improvements, et cetera. And so when we are accountable to the taxing entities for how we spent the money, this list was meant to be as exhaustive as possible so that we don't come out of compliance with the plan and they come back and said, well, you never said you were going to use it for parking enhancements, and so we don't like the way you spent that money. So a lot of these options listed on here may never happen, but we wanted to include them in here so that we had the possibility of using that if the need or practical use applied or arose. We have also made some projections about how much office space we may have over the 15 years. These numbers were used looking back at the last few years and what office space has been developed in the community, kind of averaging that out and then projecting numbers. So up to maybe 110,000 square feet of office space. There's some metrics that you use to kind of define how many jobs are typical of 200 square feet of office space. Office jobs typically are better paying than like your retail jobs, and so we would estimate average salary of these jobs to be $65,000. The commercial space, we again would believe that we would have more commercial space developed, whether it's on that vacant property or otherwise. We think that the project area could sustain about 45,000 square feet of commercial. The average salary that I've listed here is more typical of those retail level jobs, and that's where that 28,000 comes up. We did not project temporary construction jobs, but there would also be jobs like that would be created. So benefits of a CRA, you increase the property values in the project area, and again, that's done through the reinvestment or having new buildings constructed. We estimate that at the end of that 15 years, the project area valuation would increase by about $76 million. Jobs would be created. We can get some infrastructure improvements. The better your city looks, the more likely you are to have private investment, which is, right, those developers come in and they spend their money, or they choose to build in Kaysville. Again, we would anticipate some historic preservation, and the incremental tax revenues over that 15 years, there would be about $8.3 million that would go back to the taxing entities. So that is everything that I wanted to go over, and what I would do now is just turn the time back over to the mayor and the council to open the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. All right, so hopefully that was a good, clear overview. What it doesn't do is raise property taxes specific to that area. It doesn't change your zoning if you are property owners or you live in that area. It doesn't require you to do anything differently than you would normally do with your property or want to do with it. What we really are excited about is because it's an economic development tool. And I wanted to just make clear, so we went to Davis County Commission and said, would you entertain an interlocal agreement? And they said, yes, we would entertain it. It doesn't mean it's officially approved. We'd have to go to each taxing entity, including the school district. Once the council decides or doesn't decide to enter into an interlocal agreement with the county, then we have to go back to the entities and say, okay, we have this agreement in place, will you approve it? So just so you know, this is not anywhere near a done deal from the city's perspective or from anyone else. This has just been conversations and discussions we've had over almost the last 4 years, trying to say, hey, this is exciting. The other purpose of reinvestment, the community reinvestment, is to go to areas that aren't developing on their own. You know, you look at some areas in Kaysville, they've looked the same for the last 20, 30 years. And if we don't inject a little bit of money into those areas, helping them to develop into something that we'd like as a community, like restaurants or new commercial businesses, then they probably won't do it. And that's the reason that taxing entities are even interested in saying, oh yeah, okay, we can see that this will give us a future benefit if we help develop your city. Then we can see that there'll be a good gain for us at the end. So just so you know, the public hearing tonight is part of the process, and so we're excited that you're here because we want to explain, we want to help people understand what we're trying to accomplish. Our goal for the city is to follow our general plan, which was driven by all of the community input probably 5 years ago, saying what do Kaysville people want? What do we in Kaysville want for our city? And so that's where the data has come to identify these locations, saying that no, we don't want a big box, we don't want a Walmart necessarily in Kaysville. Kaysville. But we do want some commercial developments. We want businesses to be able to thrive. We want people to be able to stay here and eat here and work here and play here and spend their money here in our city because it benefits all of us. So just setting the stage with this is their intention. This is the intention that we have, and this is why we've been excited. I will just quickly just mention that January 2nd, you guys, I'm sorry, I didn't even think about that. My perspective was, okay, let's get this done. This is so exciting. Because we still have to go back to the school district and the commission and say, okay, now we've had our public hearing, we're excited about this, we've finalized some numbers, now will you approve it? And we don't even necessarily know because they have not had to commit to approve anything. But it gets the project going. And as we look into 2025, yeah, we've got a couple businesses in Kaysville and we're really excited about it. It takes a lot for people to want to do business in Kaysville because we're kind of in the middle of the county. And so sometimes we just need to be able to help ourselves a little bit to grow our economic base and our tax base so that we can do wonderful things for our community. I know it's almost 7 and this has taken a lot of time, so don't worry, you're still going to get your time. Before we turn it over to public comment, Jason, do you have anything you want to add? Because then we're not going to interrupt you. We're going to just let you talk.
I think it's been covered pretty well.
Okay.
Thanks.
All
Mary.
right. Thank you. Council members, anything?
Yeah.
Councilmember Oaks.
So, the January 2nd, a tough date, and it's the optics, and there's a lot of folks that, but if you look at the dates, we had hoped to have this approved months prior. So when it was finally approved, we could press forward with was on the 19th of November. We had to make the public comment, for the public notice, and that's 30 days. This is actually the first opportunity after that, at the first city council session that we're having. And that's really how that timing worked out, and we're nothing nefarious. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Anyone else? No? Okay. All right. So we'll turn the time over to you. If you'll come up, state your name, and try to be succinct, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Paul Himley. I'm going to go ahead and go through the post I put on Facebook, just in case everybody wants to know about it. First problem I see is taking money from the school district. That right there, increase of property tax, it already happened because the school said they need more money. Why do they need more money to just give it to the city? That's odd. There's something not ethical happening there. I went ahead and read through the documents. The fact is, the presentation we just got does not agree with the documents in some areas. It just doesn't. And I can't go through it now. The agency is a huge concern for me. Reading through the documents, the agency is allowed to do whatever they want with no accountability to the people. And that's really strange too. They can buy, they can sell, they can do whatever they want. They are no longer responsible to the people of the city. Next one, the agency itself. When I was reading through the documentation, that 80-20 split was, the wording I read was the split was between the city and the agency, not between the city and the Davis County. So that may have been a misread there. As far as traffic calming things on Main Street, maybe the businesses want to see it, but everybody that has to drive Main Street, they're not going to want to see it. And the closest streets in the neighborhood, they're not going to want to see the increased traffic. It's what's going to happen. You already pointed out that there was about, let's call it $20 million in there instead of the $5 million that you say it's good. The numbers just aren't adding up. I don't know if the people here haven't, I don't know if you guys have done a full read through of all the documentation, but these numbers aren't adding up. And it's just really sad. This is not what the public wants. Everybody I've talked to, all the comment sections I have read, say this isn't what the public wants. And according to the Code of Conduct, very first thing, act in the public interest. I don't know how you can support this and claim that you're doing it within the public interest. And I think at the very least, you should put off anything that would push this forward without more input, because it just doesn't equal what's going on.
Will you state your name for the record when you come up?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
And I forgot to mention, there is a 3-minute timer for you.
My
so that
name
we
is
can-
Jake Schuldberg. I'm here with my wife, Anna, and we own a home at 100 West, 142 North, where my father currently lives. We were hoping that as part of the community reinvestment area plan, we could propose potentially replacing the sidewalks in front of that house. They're in horrible shape. It's very difficult for him to navigate them, in part caused by some very, very large trees that are beautiful trees, but they're very old. They're becoming brittle. They lose limbs often. The roots are upheaving the sidewalk. So it's our understanding that those are actually Kaysville property, the trees. They're in the park strip. So along with sidewalk replacement, we were hoping to potentially have those trees removed. That's all I had to say.
Thank you.
Michelle Smith. I own the business Treasured Again at 340 North Main. I don't own the building, I own the business. And first, thank you for answering a lot of my questions. It was a very thorough and good presentation, and thank you for letting me know I can get the slides. I just was curious, you said that you sent out 410 flyers. Who did those flyers go to? Because I, as a business owner, did not receive one, and there's a lot more than 410 homes and residencies here. Can you answer my questions, or is that just something you'll do later?
We'll address it. Thank you.
Okay. And then I am really trying to keep my business here in Kaysville, and I've been just struggling to find a place that I can move to. And some of them make a lot of sense, but so I'm coming from a different perspective of those who are homeowners. I'm coming from a business perspective that I would like to stay here. My business has been here for about 2 years, and I'm struggling finding a place to move my business to. So I'm excited that you're looking at increasing, but I'm concerned that the building that I'm currently in, there doesn't seem to be rules and regulations to make sure that it is kept looking desirable. I'm in the place right behind the law office on Main Street between Bowman's and the Red Balloon Toy Store. So my concerns are, what are we going to do to make sure that those who already have property here are encouraged to make sure that the properties are reinvested in, that the properties look good, that they're inviting, that the parking lots are maintained, that they do their responsibility. The city shouldn't have to pay when a business is making $1 million a year in rent to make sure that that area is made to still look good. That should be the responsibility of that business. And they are able to pay for that by the tenants that rent there. So those are, I think I'm probably close to my 3 minutes, but those are the things I would be concerned from a business perspective.
Hello, thank you. You've addressed some of the things that I was going to address. One of them was the date, and I would hope in the future that we can have a meeting such as this at a later date, not right after the holidays when people are still out of town, etc. The more that we, the public, research and understand what this is all about, the more concerning it is to me and to a lot of other people. Now that we're beginning to understand what CRAs really are, we question how this is considered. City reinvestment areas, CRAs, in other states are mainly used for revitalizing slum or blighted areas. In Utah, CRAs are used as redevelopment tool. In Utah, they are not much used for blighted areas because Utah does not have a lot of blighted areas. However, it is important to understand that CRAs subsidize questionable loans that attract all kinds of developers. What would it open Kaysville up to? A lot more high density. This CRA involves a lot of Kaysville. It goes all the way from Zions Bank to Mutton Hollow and down to Smith's. Who stands to benefit from this and who stands to pay for it, which you've talked a little bit about. If the purpose is to revitalize the old downtown area from Second North to First North, south on Main Street, why is all the CRA designation there? We noticed in the KSL article, it says that we are only dealing with what will happen on Main Street, but hints that this is just the beginning vision for our city. Whose vision? What's behind this? Who's financing it? What happens if the loan is defaulted on or there are cost overruns in the years to come? What if the incremental taxes on the project do not cover the loan? Are the taxpayers left holding the bag and paying off the loan for something that they possibly really never wanted? We would ask that this be tabled and that more public meetings be held where we can truly understand the vision for the future, the long-range visions. And you've talked a little bit about this tonight, the taxes, who we are partnering with. We also need to be reminded that the people should be the focus and should be the first considered in any decision. This reminder becomes more and more important as we become more familiar with PPPs, TIFs, PIDs, and special districts. Thank you.
My name is Gary McBride, and my concern is who's going to finance all this property that's going to be developed. These property taxes need to come in from somewhere, and so we're anticipating by putting a focus on the CRA development, someone's going to have to finance that. And so banks are required to finance areas of CRA, and they come in and subsidize businesses that are not financially viable to start with, to encourage the financing in these areas. And if you're a small business, you have to have revenue of less than $1 million. And so to qualify for a CRA loan, you're going to get a substandard borrower in an area, and I'm not sure we want to attract those kind of borrowers or those kind of businesses. The other thing is multi-level development, multi-residential development is going to be a big taxpayer. So I'm concerned that we are encouraging developers to put in a lot of apartments, buildings and stuff. So we should be aware of that. We've talked about all the benefits, but nobody's talked about the negative. So that ought to be brought up in your presentation.
Thank you.
My name is Brig Lewis, and as we've been in Kaysville for quite a number of years, the main thing we use along Main Street down here has been the theater, the shoe shop, the insurance, and the bank at the end. And as we've noticed for the years, parking is getting worse and worse and worse. And with this new thing, parking is going to get even more worse. It's not going to improve. And so I'll be less likely to find another reason to come down Main Street. Probably, if I want to go to Davis High School, I'll take a residential street just to avoid the congestion that is most likely to come. They talk about using just the tax money. The tax rates aren't going to go up. But if the value of the businesses go up, their taxes go up because it's a rate. And that means if you want to go to the ice cream shop, they're going to have to charge you more for the same ice cream in a few years, even if there was no inflation, because they have to pay the bill. So this is not just a free thing. And to beautify the place, we can make it so that we look like Europe. And if we do that, we'll be living like Europe. And we didn't like that. I didn't come here for that. So as things get more congested and a little less convenient, well, what are my options? Well, Layton has some really nice businesses that are quite convenient. And that won't help this project out at all. Thank you.
My name is Bruce McGraw, and I think you guys overblow up everything like you do poor little old me with the ATF ordinance. I think you're overreacting. I think you need to table this for a year. This is an election year. We get a new presidency in. You don't know how that's going to change the economy. You don't know how that's going to change the interest rates. And I would bet, and if I'm wrong, I apologize, but has the city done any traffic studies on cutting down the amount of traffic that's going to come through there because you'll have a narrower opening. The bus is going to stop, it's going to take out one lane, and that's going to cause traffic problems. So that's all I got to say, is that you guys are overreacting. You're doing this too fast.
My name is Jennifer Borup. I would just like to say, with the meetings that you listed and who you met with, I agree that you have not met with the people. There was one meeting listed as a city council meeting. You've met with all the other people that may be interested in this, but you have not listened to us, and you have not notified us. Thanks.
My name is Larry Jensen, and my major concern right now is if you cut Main Street down to one lane. Right now, if I-15 shuts down or I-89 shuts down, all the traffic comes through Main Street. That's a lot of traffic. And I know I just live right over here, and when Main Street is shut down, there's a lot of traffic, and you take that traffic and fold it into one lane instead of four, or one lane going each way, you're going to have a major traffic problem.
Oh, my name's Tony Lujan, and thank you for taking my phone calls. It was great. My concern is housing. So if we put more businesses in, where are those guys going to work, right? I've got a bunch of employees that can't afford to live anywhere near work right now, and it's a struggle. I got people making over $50,000 that can't live here. And, I was looking at your numbers, and you're going to bring in a bunch of jobs making $28,000. And, managing these small businesses with people that have to drive by Farmington Station, we're competing with them. They're driving through Layton, we're competing with them. Nobody wants low-income housing in Kaysville, but I don't know who you're going to have work these positions, right? That's why Wiener struggled. That's why Annie struggled. That's where we struggle, right? So I'd like to see more with housing. Giving housing to city employees doesn't make as much sense as, giving it to everyone else, right? We're all trying to run businesses. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. My name is Kimball Clark, and I live on 300 West, which will be a road that will be affected if Main Street is closed down, or if there's a lot of construction work on Main Street. 300 West, I just want to talk briefly about it. It has the Old Town zoning, or historic zoning, where there's no curb and gutter. The road itself is crumbling. I happen to live right at the part where it kind of becomes very narrow between Big Daddy's and O'Reilly Auto Parts. And we've requested many times to have them fix it, and they do eventually fix it, the corners. But I've been able to stack up the asphalt that breaks off and kind of make little cairns, if you will, by my mailbox, and throw it away, of course. But 300 West is not very well taken care of compared to some of the other roadways that are avenues to 200 North. The reason why 300 West is important is because it does have a stoplight, and that's where people will go to turn onto 200 North other than Main Street. And 300 West also has a telephone pole on it, a few of them probably, like right out jutting in the road. So 300 West needs to be looked at as an improved corridor if you're going to do some work on Main Street. I'm not necessarily getting after you for wanting to improve the city. I think it's a wonderful thing. It is a good thing. I just think that it can be done maybe a little bit smarter. The other concern I have is parking. diminishing the parking. I also have a business on Main Street, so this is affecting me in two ways, not only my home, but my business as well. Kindex, that purple building. And a lot of my customers are elderly, and they're trying to get there with boxes of records and photos and et cetera, and they have a hard time. There's also a family law practice which caters to the elderly. There's also the haircutting place which caters to the elderly. So I know that you're not eliminating all the parking on Main Street, that you're trying to give some avenue for parking, but there is the elimination of the vast majority that is presently there. So I agree with some of the comments that have said that probably a little bit more time, a little bit more discussion to be able to hone this and to be a much better solution for the citizens and the businesses. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Laureen Starkey, can you hear me? Okay. I just want to reiterate some of the words at the beginning of the meeting. I don't feel like maybe it was nefarious, but maybe it could be more thoughtful. I had just had 4 grandchildren drive 900 miles to visit their grandmother, who was very busy trying to help people know about this meeting that they would not have known. I'm grateful for all the people that have come. I'm also a little bit sad about the 95th birthday party for my mother-in-law that I was busy trying to help people know about this meeting. So I think that maybe we could be a little more thoughtful in the future. I also want to know the plans for this community redevelopment, reinvention is beginning to look a little bit like the Point of the Mountain. I'm wondering if we want to look like the Point of the Mountain. My brother works with bankruptcies. He looked at our city this week when I told him a little bit about this meeting, and he said, why is Kaysville looking to redevelop when other cities are wilting? And he sees the businesses on our Main Street as open and vibrant and thriving. I'm not arguing against improvement. I'm just wondering if there is I'm really grateful for the school board member that I spoke with today that said that she takes this kind of tax increment financing very seriously. I appreciate that. I also appreciate some words from my daughter, who's teaching her daughter and her children about the addictive nature of what some authors call the others people's money, opium. It's very addictive. Perhaps we can review the question, how did the Kaysville citizens respond to our city being responsible for fiber? Maybe we want to pay as we go. And I was really grateful for the discussion that happened at our last meeting. I think that I'm really grateful that we could consider more deliberation, helping the citizens understand more about what a CRA is. I also wanted to, as I was reading the history of our land and the biblical eras, I'm reminded that sometimes systems seem popular and attractive, and then some groups discover when they set themselves up to be like other lands, rather than accepting the responsibility of having their affairs steered by the voice of the people, they find themselves in bondage, in captivity, and subject to whims. Thank you for thinking about befriending the Constitution and including public education and input. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Someone's phone. Good evening, Council and Madam Mayor. My name is Daniel Luke. I'm a 33-year resident of Kaysville City. Love this city. Was happy to get my notice in the mail about 2 weeks ago. Saw that the RDA is including a lot of the downtown, where my friend Kimball Clark just spoke there by 3rd West. Also, treasures right here on Main Street through 20 North Main. They were part of my mail route back in the day that I delivered for 30 years. I was excited to see that we're now planning to make things improvements. I've heard some of the concerns of the citizens and the business owners. It probably will kind of tighten things up on Main Street, as we've seen here on Center Street and First North, as they're now one-way streets and whatnot. I was excited to see your maps and things that were put up on the screen. A couple of things that it says the CRA will not obligate a property owner to sell or redevelop. I wanted to know if this 3 minutes would also allow for the council to respond, or your city attorney, or anyone on the council here, if there is collateral damage to a personal property owner or a business owner's property in doing what you had on the board for some of the utilities being dug down. Specifically, a lot of times when they do utilities, they'll use ground radar. And it's very important to know exactly where the existing sewer lines, wastewater lines, et cetera, are. It's in trade magazines that it is essential to know. And if there is collateral damage, is the CRA or the city, this administration, prepared to provide remuneration for the impressed cost upon a personal resident citizen of Kaysville City or a business owner? The reason why I ask is, before this $5 million project is going to get started, there was a $4.7 million project out on Flint Street. It began at the turn of the century in 2002. It's incrementally done: sidewalks, widening the road, repositioning utility poles, which they did in front of my house. And the auger moved a utility pole that goes down 6 to 8 feet down with that large auger directly over our wastewater line, our sewer line coming out of our house. That is 8 to 12 feet in the ground, and it took several years for that to actually break apart and cause a backup this year. And it was in July that I notified Kaysville City, and it wasn't until September I got my certified letter back saying falsely that Kaysville City, of course, we've told you that we can, if you will allow. I don't know what documentation the city would have as to where the excavations or depths were in front of your home, or the details on the power pole placement. That was by Kaysville City Power. This is important. They should be using the plat maps that are available at the county. They should have them on tablets. They should have ground radar right in front of any one of these large improvement jobs. If it happens and Kaysville City has $76 million in increased property value and $8 million going to those tax entities you put up on the board, that's 2 thumbs up from all of us here. There's 150 residents here. But if they understand that this is one property owner who loves Kaysville City, who was told, we have no idea, but as our administration told you previously, you could submit a records request. I have done so. This letter goes back to September. Finally, your public works director, at the behest of John Flint, came by my home with Cody, his number 2, in October, just before the Dodgers won the World Series. Came by and finally, from July to October, how far away is the city operations from Flint Street? 2.5 blocks, 3 blocks? Not a phone call, not a text message, not a visit, not a courtesy call. I came to the city council meeting on September 8th when you had your youth council sworn in as youth council committee members. I sent 2 letters to the mayor, 2 letters to the city attorney, 2 letters to the city public works director, 2 letters to the city superintendent of power. I've received nothing in return.
Dan,
It would be a great thing if improvements are made, and Kaysville City has improvements. Job being done out on Flint Street is going to be lovely. My friend John Flint, that development that has been okayed, it's going to be lovely. It's not going to be bad. We had some pushback in West Kaysville about the Smiths property. Now everyone goes there. I've heard nothing back from the city on this.
we can follow up on that. I don't recall receiving letters from you, but I'm not going to argue the point right now. Okay.
The point is,
Okay.
this is saying that there's no worries.
Okay.
150 people here
Okay.
have worries. Here is one person saying he's worried. I've got
Okay.
one letter, one certified letter to cover your tales. Yeah, we responded to him. That was a false, there was a deceptive statement in there that, as we previously told you, no. And so the city public works director said, you can submit a claim
Okay.
for insurance. That's the next step. I did so in September. I have heard
Okay.
nothing but crickets in September.
Well,
That's a concern.
okay. Appreciate you sharing that. We will,
I've even written to the Mayor Kafusi over the Utah City Council of Cities and Towns to see if she could leverage a little bit of help to the local, there's 247 cities
Okay.
and towns in the state of Utah. This is a wonderful group that meets in the fall each year. Something like this, a CRA, we're gonna make things better. If there's collateral damage to your property.
Okay, Dan, thank
In the
you.
trade magazines, I want to make one last statement. It is said by those that do water lines, it is essential to know where those lines are, and if we come within 12 inches of an existing line, if we miss the line on placement of new lines, they will crack. You don't know it by a gusher like a big oil gusher. It takes years for that to, can you imagine, seeping into your lovely roadwork you've had. It takes years for that to actually fully collapse, back up, and now this homeowner has a $50,595.50 bill that I paid in full on August the 23rd. I had the money for exactly 12 hours before I turned it over to take care of that problem. And I believe that it is, my problems only began where Kaysville City's work started in my property. Nothing from the street
Okay.
to my house, 130 feet deep.
Okay.
Nothing. It's a concern.
Oh, totally. I completely, I have, this is the first time hearing. Okay.
People hear that
Okay.
have had no response from this administration.
Okay.
I thank you for my comments.
Okay.
Hope to hear from either Jason
Okay.
or Madam Mayor.
Go ahead
or
and,
one of the council members. Love Kaysville City, but
I
towns are awful.
would have appreciated a phone call, but anyway, okay, come on up.
My name's Ryan Forsyth. I'm with Leading Tech Development. Recently bought the Annie's property, the Wingers Building, 104 North Main here, and working on one other property right now, currently in this area that I can talk about at another time. But I appreciate that the city cares so much about trying to make things better, and they're willing to invest in the city. I'm also a Kaysville resident. A part of my lot is, half of my lot is. But I just wanted to say that there are several things that motivate a developer. I am a developer. I'm an attorney. There's multiple things that motivate a developer. If our goal is commercial development and increased business, communication is one, timing is another, permits, how quickly you can get through a planning and zoning, how quickly you can understand. You can either spend your money in interest, carrying a piece of property while you wait for a permit or approval to get approved, or you can spend it on the improvements themselves. As a developer, I'm happy when a city communicates with me, brings me in and says, hey, this is what we want. This is how we, envision your project going, because it gives me an opportunity to say, these are the important things for me. This is the budget that I have, and really, it's not me. It's the business that's investing in the community. It's who's going to show up every morning and open their doors and serve these citizens. It's what motivates them. Some of those things that make a big difference is access. We have to protect access. We have to protect access for city. Parking, we have to make sure that it's parkable. We have to make sure that the landscaping is nice, but you have to think about, hey, how are the snowplows going to navigate this? How are you going to, how are you going to preserve the efficiency of this city? So I'm excited for the overall, I'm going to put my corporate offices right next to yours, right here. I'm going to redevelop this building. We got our permit today. I'm grateful, and I'm going to bring that building back to its former glory. I'm going to invest in this city, and I'm willing to keep investing. But I think that, I don't know how I feel about the whole thing. All I wanted to say was there are a lot of developers, because you have great constituents that are willing to invest because of the demographics here. If there's a more collaborative approach, if you can talk to the people who are really going to be spending the money more than these other government agencies who have really good insight, but isn't necessarily their money. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan. We'll go for about another 5 minutes.
I'll be quick. So I'm a resident of Kaysville, 52 years, so I'm sure there's not a whole lot of people You can beat me? Oh, we got a few. So if you guys can remember back, what was Kaysville set up for? The whole idea of Kaysville was a small town. We're 3 minutes away from Layton. We're 15 minutes from Salt Lake, 15 minutes from Ogden. They never built this town so that it would be a metropolis business. It was supposed to be a small community. That was the whole idea. That's why we moved here 50 years ago. And I don't know why we're trying to go away from that. And then I look at that strip mall that's over there. You see all those businesses just struggle over there, and you want to bring in a whole bunch of more businesses, and they can barely make it. I talked to one of the ladies over there. She goes, I can't even pay my rent this month. So I don't see how we're going to build this metropolis and everybody's going to be prosperous and all this money's going to flow in. So that's all I can say.
Thank you.
Can I have your name?
Oh,
Can I have
excuse
your
me, sir,
name?
can we have your name? Will you come back up to the mic?
Michael Beck.
Michael Beck. Thank you, Michael.
Hi, I'm Larry Penrod. I just want to echo what Mike just said. We moved here 33 years ago because look at the town. Look at this town. It's a small city. We love it here. Everybody that lives here now, whether they're in a big monster home or a small home, they're here because this is what we love. Not all this growth that we're talking here that's going to bring in high-density housing. You know it will. You might say it won't, but you know it will. And really, I just want to improve what we have. I love going to Michelle's shop over there and looking through all the stuff. But that building is an eyesore, that whole building. You know which one I'm talking about, right? Where the old Bowmans used to be way over there? Yeah. So, I mean, if we can fix that kind of stuff. But my big question is, what's broken? What's broken that makes you want to think about all of this? You know, I guess that's what I need to leave it at.
Thank you.
My name is Jenny Romney, and I've lived in Kaysville for 22 years. I actually live on First North. And I want the people here attending today to know that I contacted the city probably 2.5 months ago. As you noticed, all along Main Street, UDOT was coming in and putting in the new sidewalk integrated to make them up to code for the handicap or whatever. So every entrance off of our Main Street has a new plaque on the ground where the handicap can enter and use our Main Street. It was brought to my attention at that time, because it was my street, that the planning and due diligence that the city has done has been completely dysfunctional, to say the least. I can point out, if everybody looks at the map here, on First South, it shows Faye's Dry Cleaning and Clyde's Adams Ballet, where the alleyway is. The proposed, this is the plan that you're saying is the #1 option. It still shows that the street is a one-way street. They've only changed the arrows to show two-way. So if it's a one-way street, it means that every person that drops off a dancer at Clyde Adams Dance Studio would have to turn west down First North and go along 3rd West to even exit the neighborhood. Secondly, the company, the engineer company that you have hired, and I don't know how much you've paid or if that's on the back end, and they haven't been paid yet, but they will be paid, has never even stepped foot in this city. You will see that Faye's Dry Cleaning has their drive-through closed. They have parking planned to go in front of those. And when I contacted the city 2 months ago, when this was all going to happen, that day, I got Sarah Robinette up at the city building. I got you on the phone, Tammy. I got the city manager on the phone. I CC'd every single one of you on this board. And I explained that you have not done your due diligence. And it just shows that here it is printed on January 1st, 2025, that you're moving forward. How do we trust you? How do we trust that you're doing your due diligence to know that you're not going to put Faye's out of business, that you're not going to put Clyde Adams out of business? You have all these planted median islands going down Center Street that will make it so nobody can get to the theater. Nobody can get to the dry cleaner. Nobody can even get to the ice cream shop, because every street on here you can't turn onto. And then once you're in the neighborhood south of the theater, you're stuck, because the only exit you have is 200 North
and Main Street, but Main Street makes you go south. So I fear for the decision-making that the city council has, because they're hiring a engineer firm that has never stepped foot in Kaysville. They have also closed off the driveway to the motorsports repair shop right here on 100 North. And you can say that this isn't right. It's the big chosen.
What are you referring to?
I'm referring to what you printed and posted as the redevelopment agency city center investment area project plan, area plan.
Okay, we'll follow up on that. What is it? Oh, they just didn't update it.
I just want to state that, perfection is the enemy of good. I think this is a good start. This is a good plan. I look forward to seeing an improved city. I am not a fan of the way Main Street is today. I think it's too fast. Its parking is a pain. So I definitely would support something. I like the look of it. I think it's very good. I'd like to see more development in Kaysville, more businesses. I'd like to see more housing in Kaysville. So with that being said, I hope that Kaysville does do something and make Kaysville a better place for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian.
What is your name?
Okay, anyone else feel like they need to say something? Now, let me just give you a little caveat to that. When we start our city council meeting, there is an opportunity to have public comment at the beginning of that meeting. So I don't want to cut you off early, but if no one's running to the mic, then we would like to close the public hearing for this. Speak now if you really need to share something. Okay.
Just real quick, just wanted to say, 5 years can sometimes...
Your name for the...
Oh, I'm so sorry, yes, Nedra Saunders. And 5 years can change or improve our vision sometimes from what we, as we get more time to think about that. And so I think some of us, even though we've had this on hand or in file, have still had some more ideas too, and things that have come to mind. Particularly, I had my youngest sister who lives in Cache Valley tell me a couple days ago that they are up there tearing out their median, their street medians with trees in them because of all the problems that the trees are causing with higher profile vehicles knocking down branches, issues with branches falling into the roadway so that cars can't maneuver, some things that might not have been thought about. So there's some things that do need to be discussed. I think there's some good ideas. I think there's some more things that need to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, you've had an opportunity
that's what I was
to
gonna say. I
speak,
didn't know
so
if I could
yeah,
say
thank
one
you.
thing.
That
Okay.
would be great. Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, then we will close the public hearing. Do we need a motion for that? I think we do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll motion that we close the public hearing.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Okay, public hearing is now closed. We will start our city council meeting at 7:45. Or, well, yeah, go ahead and, yeah.
It's going to be popular. No one bothered to answer. If there are damages from a city project, that there would be a enumeration. No answer. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, hi, nice to meet you.
10 people. No one
What can I say for the city? I can't talk for the city on a situation like that. Listen, I don't even know about it. I don't know about it, and you're expecting me to give you an answer. I don't shoot from the hip. I don't know. I didn't have any idea about this, and you're not going to get an answer from me. I'm not going to shoot from the hip.
come up through.
All right, everyone, we so appreciate you being willing to attend our meeting. We need to start our city council meeting. So if you will, you are welcome to stay. In fact, I hope you all stay. But if you choose not to stay, please make your way to the lobby. I hope that you continue to listen to our meeting, though, because we are going to answer some questions that were raised during the public hearing. Please make your way to the lobby unless you want to stay for city council. I'm surprised. Yeah, I would hope you would all stay so that we can answer some of your questions. But if you don't want to, we do broadcast our meetings live. So please make your way to the lobby. I appreciate you for being here. We all do. Yeah. I know. We would love you all to stay so that we can answer your questions. And if you choose to stay, will you please take your seat? I know. It's a public hearing, though, so we couldn't actually address it during the public hearing time because that's state code. So anyway, okay, thank you. So those of you who are here, we'd invite you to stay with us. Make yourselves comfortable, and we'll start our city council meeting. Thank you. Okay, welcome to the Kaysville City Council meeting for January 2nd, 2024. Our opening tonight for tonight's meeting will be provided by Councilmember John Adams. He will then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for those of you who stayed. I wish that everybody had stayed, quite frankly, because, I mean, we're planning, this is on the agenda, the public hearing was, but I appreciate those of you that did stay, and I want to wish all of you a Happy New Year. I'm going to say a prayer and then lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you could bow your heads. Our Father in heaven, we come before thee at this time with gratitude in our hearts to live in this great country, this great state, and most notably this great city that we all call home. We are grateful for the moisture that we've received recently and ask thee continue to provide us with more. We ask thee to bless that this evening will be one of thought, one of contemplation, and that we can all leave neighbors and loved ones. We ask thee to please bless those in our city who are struggling at this time, and that we can all be good neighbors to them. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item of business during our city council meetings is called Call to the Public. During Call to the Public, we invite those who have signed up to come up. Please state your name. You'll have 3 minutes. We won't interrupt you. We'll smile at you, and we'll take notes. And then we'll address your comments later in the meeting. We have one individual who's signed up, and it is Jacob Schilderberg. Hope I pronounced your name correctly. We'll welcome you to the mic. Okay.
He asked about replacing the sidewalk.
Oh, okay, so we already spoke. All right. Thank you for that. Okay, so just is by way of housekeeping, during city council meetings, we don't take comment from the public during the meeting from the audience. If you have something you'd like to discuss with us, please let us know after. We'll stick around after the meeting for sure and talk to you, okay? We'd like to make sure that it's a respectful environment and that everyone can hear who might be listening. All right. Council, do we have any conflicts of interest to declare? No? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda, which is item number 4, award of bid for the rail trailhead and Flint Street improvements. Does someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve consent item A.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Oakes. Councilmember Hunt.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Thank you. That brings us to our action item, which is number 5A, approval of an interlocal agreement between the Kaysville Redevelopment Agency and Kaysville City for the Kaysville City Community Reinvestment Plan budget. Before we start this, since we had a public hearing, I would like to just take a minute, wrote down some notes, and give the council an opportunity to actually, I'll give the council an opportunity first. Did any of you want to share anything that you wanted to respond to that you heard during public comment?
I got a couple things.
Councilmember Blackham.
I don't want people to think that we just barely rushed this through and worked on this, because I've been involved with this for about 4 years now. This is just kind of the final tool, and I've seen a lot of these come through. I've seen a lot of them come through because I also represent Kaysville City on the mosquito abatement, which is one of the entities. And I've seen a lot of these come through from a lot of different cities where they're just trying to help take that tax increment. Well, what kind of brought this about that I can remember more than anything is we did some surveys, and these surveys said that we'd really like to see Kaysville City enhance their downtown. And to do that, we were trying to put a budget together and realized that it was pretty costly. So, and those types of things usually have to come out of tax dollars because there's no enterprise funds or those types of things that can go towards that. So as we looked at that and looked at trying to figure out a way to enhance the downtown, because we were trying to actually help the businesses a lot. I know we've been talking about trying to do a mid-block crossing. UDOT won't pay anything towards that, but we can see how that would benefit the city and help parking, because I know parking's talked a lot, because we have a parking lot out here that doesn't get used only during the day, during the week, and for the businesses, it could help them in the evenings and on weekends. To be able to use that for those things. I guess I'm limited to 3 minutes too. So, you know, and so as we looked at that and we tried to figure out how can you fund this thing? Well, we started looking and saying, well, it's such a small area, but it's going to take some money. So the only way to get the amount of money needed is we're going to have to increase the area. So that's why the area is so big, because you have to be able to take enough tax increment that you're going to be able to get. And understand that that tax increment is only on improved properties. It doesn't take any of the taxes away. It doesn't make you pay any more taxes. All it says is if somebody comes in, it doesn't actually make, we don't go out and entice developers to come into these RDA areas. Now, there might be something that they may ask for in an RDA to help them out if there's something in their business that they can't do. They'll ask the city, if you help invest in this, it will help me, and we'll all, and you know, we look at that. But for this, it was mostly for Main Street to help do that. So we had to enlarge the area in order to get enough tax increment in the reinvestment area in order to at least get enough money that we felt we could do. $5 million seems like a lot, but it's not a lot when you're trying to pay people to go do a lot of things that you want to do. And to enhance downtown, we had to come, and so these drawings you see, people keep saying, we're going to take it. UDOT's never going to let us take the UDOT highway down to single lanes. They're not going to let us do that. I don't think they'd actually let us put islands in there. But the thing that we want to do is we want to make it look better. We want to enhance the downtown. In order to do that, it costs money because UDOT won't pay for it. They said, we'll let you do it, but you have to pay for it. So without actually raising taxes, the best way to do it was the CDA. Just do a redevelopment area or an RDA, CDA. They got so many acronyms for them. But ultimately, it was just a tool for the city to be able to take some of that money. And so he says, well, I heard somebody say something about the school district, hurts the school district. Well, if you look in an RDA, it's redevelopment area, generally those areas don't usually have more kids. So there's usually not schools built in those areas. It's usually businesses that we're trying to help enhance. And, you know, I remember years ago when they wanted to do something with the theater. I think there was some low-interest loans that were given to the theater so they could improve the facade on that. Those are the kinds of things you can do with RDA money to help enhance your downtown. But everything costs money, and so we were trying to capture some of that increment. And I think the entities around, these taxing entities, realize that if you can capture some of that money, if Kaysville City will capture some of that money and reinvest it in the area, yes, it does help the area. It does make, if somebody, this guy's going to fix this corner, he says right now he's reinvesting in this corner over here, he wants to put his corporate offices there. Well, sometimes that enhances the people next door to say, well, he did it, maybe I should do it. Maybe I should make mine a little better. It doesn't force anybody to do that, but if they do it, it makes their property worth more money. And so in that case, Kaysville City can capture some of those increased tax values. And if they're going to capture some of those increases, we want to be able to use that in what you people have said that's what you want us to do. We took a statistically valid survey that went to 1,000 random homes in Kaysville, and one of the questions was asked, what would you like to see done? And they said, we want you to enhance the downtown. That's the direction the citizens gave the city council. So for someone to say that we're not listening to the people, we're not taking the direction from the people, I feel like it's just the opposite. We were taking the direction from the people. We were listening to the people. This statistically valid survey took 1,000 random homes, all areas of the city, all different size lots, everywhere they looked, and they put all that information and compiled it together. That's the information we got from you. It's probably the most legitimate survey and the most legitimate feedback I've ever got at the city when I've been here. So I don't see the downside to this. I'm trying to figure out what the downside would be to it. It's not forcing anybody to sell their property. It's not forcing any developers to come in here. It's not forcing the city to get anybody to do anything. All it's doing is saying, here's a tool if somebody comes into your city, like they're going to build a motel on 4th West and some apartments down there. That's going to take that vacant lot to what they pay now in taxes and improve it. And for us to be able to capture that increased investment and take that money and be able to reinvest that into our city, to me is a win-win. Otherwise, that money would just go out to the other taxing entities, and we wouldn't be able to use it. Those are just some of my thoughts.
Thank you, Councilmember Blackham. Councilmember Oaks.
I just want to echo Councilmember Blackham. I'm starting today or yesterday my 4th year on the council. I don't think there's a more no vote on this council for increasing in taxes than this gentleman right next to me. And for him to understand how you can bring tax money in without increasing property taxes for the residents, you're not going to find anybody. He would be the biggest no vote if it had a chance of increasing the tax values for the residents. I don't know how I can be more heartfelt in that. There's nothing that, these are plans. It's this, what it does, it gives us the opportunity as we go forward to determine and figure out what are the most beneficial ways to revitalize the downtown area. And if we went through it and decided there's nothing here that makes any sense, then we wouldn't do it. We would say, thank you very much, and we had this opportunity, and we would decide not to. But it gives us the vehicle to be able to make the improvements that we have felt that the residents of the city wanted us to make. And I think that's sufficient. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Jackson.
All righty. I appreciate everyone who stayed. It was mentioned several times that maybe we rushed this. We shouldn't have held this on January 2nd. But this was a full house tonight. And I was hoping it would remain a full house for the rest of the evening since we are discussing this and this is part of the agenda. So thank you to those of you who stayed. It means a lot to all of us up here. There were so many questions posed and statements made. I wish we had time to go over every single one of them, but appreciate what my colleagues have said up here, and I will try to address a few of the questions as well. Ultimately, what we're doing as a city council, Kaysville is Utah's hometown, and we all want to keep it that way. We don't have an interest in increasing traffic. We don't have an interest in taking away parking stalls that are very much needed and relevant. We don't have an interest in transforming or changing our city to something that is unrecognizable to you or your kids or grandkids. And so the actions that we're taking now, we are trying to create our future and plan for the future. And, you know, the movie theater here, I hope that movie theater is here 50 years from now. It may be the only movie theater in the state of Utah, but I want to keep it there. I want to keep the ice cream shop, the cobbler, all the law offices, all the other businesses here. We want to enhance that and encourage people to come downtown. It's kind of scary to cross this road right now. I'll bring my wife and child here to go get ice cream. Sometimes there's no parking, so we park over here. And it's kind of sketchy sometimes to cross that road because of so much traffic and the speed. And so ultimately, from the traffic perspective, is we want to beautify this area, but we want to slow down traffic a little bit. We want to have adequate parking, but encourage residents to use the crosswalks and to do it safely. We have one of the lowest tax rates in the entire county, and we want to keep it that way. But it's becoming, every year it gets more and more challenging, and we don't want to increase property tax rates. But we need more revenue as a city. We need more revenue for our sidewalks, for our infrastructure and roads. And so this is a big part of why we're moving forward with this, at least up to this point, and entertaining the idea, because we do need more revenue and more life downtown here. And if we can capture some of that, then we will all benefit. This is a quality of life issue, really. We want Kaysville to be a shining star, but we want to remain what traditionally we've always remained, a hometown feel. We want to encourage people to come downtown to eat at restaurants. It'd be nice to have more restaurants downtown where folks can park over here and cross the street and have a date night out without having to go to Salt Lake or Farmington or Layton. I'm very optimistic about this, kind of what Councilmember Blackham said. You know, there's a lot of optimism around this, and there's a lot of entities involved. And if we would have brought this to the public months ago, that would have been putting the cart before the horse. Because up to this point, we have had to get buy-in from so many different entities, and we just barely got approval from the county to move forward, to at least move forward to talking with the public. And one thing I want to point out, whatever decision we make tonight or in the near future, this is only the beginning. And really, everything that takes place with downtown in this area is going to require a lot of engagement with the community, with business owners. And so any decision that we make right here, right now, it's still going to require a lot of work moving forward. We need your input. And I'm optimistic, looking forward into the future as to what this could potentially entail. And I want to hear from folks to see what you envision the downtown looking like. And with that, let's see if there's anything else here, looking at my notes. Oh, as far as accountability was brought up earlier. We as the agency, there's no one more accountable to you than your city council. And so in my opinion, I think it's appropriate to have the city council actively involved as the entity and the agency, because we directly hear feedback from you and we're accountable to you. And so that's one point I want to make clear. And I think that might be it for me. But just ultimately, this has been exciting, it's been challenging. There's a lot of moving parts to this, and we have been diligent as a council in trying to move this forward to get to this point to where we can get feedback from the public. And I'm hoping that, that we can get to a spot to where we have a vibrant downtown that people want to come to and experience life. And so I appreciate, again, all of you being here tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Hunt?
Okay, so I'm glad a lot of the concerns that residents brought up have been addressed. I don't think all of them have been addressed, but I think Councilmember Adams, sorry, thinking of his first name, is going to ask some of those questions. So I want you to know it's important to me that your questions and your thoughts and your ideas that you brought up are addressed. I think they'll be addressed by the end, so I'm not going to say a whole lot on them right now, but I just want to say thanks for being here. Thanks for staying. It can be a long night, especially in the audience, especially in those chairs, so I appreciate you being here and taking this opportunity to give your input. Some of the concerns, I think, stem from, I mean, we've published the initial plan, right? And that's kind of the image and the paperwork that people have been referencing. And as Councilmember Jackson said, that's just the beginning. So this is kind of the springboard almost to what's going to happen. So what we're talking about today is just trying to get the financing in line in order to be able to kick off those conversations and continue down the line of what do our residents want, you know, fine tuning that information a little bit more and getting going on that. So like has kind of been said, it's a loose starting point. We've talked about it. We've gotten the buy-in. We want to hear from residents. We took what we know from residents, like Councilmember Blackham said, from our survey and from our interactions, and have put them into this. And now we're going to move forward, fine-tuning it until it's right. I also wanted to address just people, not targeting anyone in general, just the thought that people are concerned that this is going to become like a metropolis or that we're trying to change the nature or character of our city. And I think it's safe to say that none of us have any desire to do that. We all live here. My kids go to school here. We're very cognizant of the school next door, the schools up the street, and the concerns that people have in the surrounding neighborhoods. I mean, in the end, optimistically, if we were to get $5 million, that would be a great thing for our city. It would be, as has been brought up, a way to help reinvest in our city without having to increase property taxes for that amount. I'm rambling a little, and I don't mean to, but I guess, okay, all right. Recently, we've had a couple of businesses, small businesses. I mean, and I guess that's what I'm trying to go with this, is we're not trying to make it a metropolis. We're trying to help reinvest in those small businesses. There were 2 businesses recently in Kaysville that left for Bountiful. And it makes me sad to see that because they were small mom and pop businesses, things that were Kaysville. They were perfect here, but I don't know if they needed to grow. It seemed like they needed to grow. It seemed like they needed better prospects, and this wasn't the place. And to me, that makes me sad for our local businesses, for the businesses that want to invest here. But it's not all about the businesses, it's about the residents and providing places for our residents to go to. And as we've talked about, helping address some of those tax concerns. A lot of people have asked, why are you doing this? I mean, I think I've covered a little bit of that, but also historic preservation. There is a strong group of people within this city, and I agree that we need to preserve our history. These funds could be used in theory towards the old library, in theory towards getting our own museum. We're the only city in Davis County that doesn't have a museum. I think it's difficult for our kids to remember who we are because we don't have a lot of that. People say, why are you doing this? Because we want to do this for you guys. We want to help with historic preservation. We want to build our community and make a stronger fabric for our kids to build on. And then I'll just say I'm hoping that staff can address some of like the loan and liability issues when you have a chance. But yeah, just thanks so much for being here, and hopefully we can kind of get this cleared up so that we can feel comfortable and everyone can have their buy-in. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Adams.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just going to, if it's okay, Mayor, go through some of the questions I jotted down. Are you okay if I ask staff during this point in time? Okay. Let's see, just to start, Mr. Henley talked about taking money from the school districts. I think we've gone over, it's not necessarily taking money, it's the money that would come from the increase. Is that correct, Melinda? Okay. I think, you know, my council members to the left talked about, I believe it was Councilmember Jackson, talked about an agency being allowed to do whatever they want, or the comment was made that the agency could do whatever they want and they wouldn't have any accountability to the people. Is the agency will be made up of the council, is that correct?
Yeah, so per city code, or sorry, per state code, I'll read this word for word. The governing body of an agency is the board consisting of the current members of the Community Legislative Council. So that means the RDA board members are you as city council. The mayor serves as the executive director of the agency. So the mayor, so there is direct accountability, right? Because this is not people that are not elected. It's your city council and your mayor acting in a capacity as the redevelopment agency rather than the city council. Those roles cannot be reassigned. There are some forms of government where the executive director responsibility that the mayor would have could be assigned to a designee. For our form of government, that's not allowed. So there is absolutely direct connection to accountability in the voters because the RDA board is the mayor and the council.
Well, and I'll just add, any decision or action taken by the redevelopment agency will be done in a public meeting. So those agendas will always be public, those discussions will always be public, just like it was tonight, and it has been in the past, and it will always be moving forward, so.
Yeah, so I think a good answer to that question is who would be accountable, having it be the council. I mean, as a council, we could theoretically triple or quadruple your taxes if we really wanted to after you've voted us in, but clearly we're not going to for a lot of reasons. We live here, but also because that's why you voted us in. You voted us in to be what we promised, responsible and fiscally responsible. And if we aren't, then I guess you give us the boot, right? And so I believe the accountability aspect of it is there. Jake and Anna asked, could you replace a sidewalk in front of grandparents' house that they own? Is that something that RDA money could be used towards?
So the rule of thumb of spending the monies that come to the agency is that it has to be spent either within the project area boundaries, or you have to be able to directly show those funds are being spent on something that does have a tie-in to benefiting the project area. To answer that, I guess, scenario specifically, I don't know. I think that's something that we would want to talk about.
I'm not asking for a commitment.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, yeah, possibly. It could be, right? If they're in the area and people are like, hey, we're trying to walk to these businesses and we keep stubbing our toes. Yeah, maybe that's something you could do. Okay. Let's see. Michelle Smith asked about the 410 flyers that were sent out. Who were they sent to? Were they only sent to residents, or were they also sent to businesses?
The state code requires that we send those notices out to the property owners. So if you are renting, you're leasing a property, that only goes to the owner. So state law requires that we send that out to everybody within the project area boundaries. I had, about a month ago, 2 gentlemen came in and they were neighbors, and he said, I got one and I didn't. Mm-hmm. Well, one house was in the project area, or one property was, and the other was without or outside of that boundary. So state code also requires us to send notice to all of the taxing entities, so the mosquito abatement district, the school district. They have all seen or should have received a notice. We also have to send it to the State Board of Education. So those have all been sent, but as far as the properties within the boundary, it was sent to the property owners. And that's a requirement of state code as well, that we can't pull that information more than 30 days in front of that public hearing. So there is a lot of finessing here with figuring out dates and mailing out those notices. So that is because, right, people sell property. We want to make sure that when we pull those records from the county records, and again, state code specifies it has to be the owner as indicated by the county records. So we pull those within 30 days. That's where we got all those addresses and property names.
So I'm guessing that I don't see her here. I'm guessing she didn't see it. I mean, mail tends to be that way, right? But the letters were sent. She also talked about rules for keeping buildings looking nice, and how can you make sure that a business is responsible for making their building nice. I think Perry commented on that, or somebody said, you know, he can't necessarily make you do anything, but it provides a tool maybe to help with that. Let's see, the next, Jennifer Barb asked that we have not met with the people. And I think we've discussed a little bit about that, but I also want to tie in a little bit to what Ms. Starkey said about the dates and being thoughtful. I think we're compassionate to that as a council, and I feel like most of us are okay, maybe. I don't know. I don't want to speak for other council members, but I'm okay if we want to postpone the vote a couple weeks to address some of those concerns. We certainly got a couple emails about people feeling like it was happening on that date. And that way we do have another meeting to hear from the people, and hopefully that would address Jennifer's concern. Larry Jensen mentioned that Main Street would be cut down to one lane. Is that happening?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
UDOT would not allow us to do that.
And I mean, that's what I assumed, but it seemed to be a prevailing topic throughout the night. Ms. Romney, who I believe is still here, thank you for staying, was talking about due diligence. I think one of the things, one of the concerns that she had was having to do with one of the renderings of what we may do as far as making Main Street a more appealing and walkable place to go to. In those renderings, some of the things that she addressed, any of those final, I mean, are those things that we can obviously address down the road?
Yeah, so I think I would just say, you know, the old adage of sometimes the best laid plans don't work out.
Yeah.
I would say that was a plan. The council adopted that as a preferred alternative, I think in July of 2022, based on feedback from the community and from Ms. Romney, 3 months ago now, 4 months ago, the Public Works Department, who was the one that engaged the consultant and looked at all that with the traffic analysis, they decided to hold off on improvements, I guess, on 100 North versus what we did on Center Street. So that plan did change. I think that's just in the plan because we've been working on this for so long. We included it. You know, again, we had hoped to have this approved, I mean, I would say a couple years ago. Just sometimes it doesn't work that way. So that was included because if we do approve this project area, I think one of the likely candidates for having funds spent would be to do the median through Main Street. That was a project that began before my time here, but it was a project with UDOT. They engaged the business owners over here, and so that just kind of was like the last part of the council adopted that as a preferred option, and it's really nothing more than that. So we can always, I mean, just because that is in this plan doesn't mean we have to do it, but it does give us the opportunity to implement any part of that plan if we would like.
Okay. And I mean, hopefully that addresses Ms. Romney's concerns. I think that, you know, we definitely don't want to put Faze out of business because that's the only place I can go when I've like backlogged all of my laundry, and I mean, you'll ashamedly see me in there with 4 things running at the same time, because it's way faster than sitting at my house and doing it. So we definitely don't want to put anybody out of business, and hopefully that can just be seen for what it is, which was like a possible plan at its beginning stages. Daniel Luke talked about the collateral damage. I mean, I hope you understand that we probably won't go in as a council as to what happened personally with you. I feel sorry that happened. I don't know if he's still here, but you know, oh yeah, there you are. I feel sorry, and for dealing with that. I can't even imagine that kind of. Yeah. So and. Oh, okay.
My one question was,
Dan, you're out of order, so please don't be disruptive, but I will definitely follow up on that.
That's my personal.
Oh, thank you, okay.
Well, yeah, so I was just going to say, like, maybe Nick can address this as far as moving forward, anything that we were doing or that we paid for as a city to do with future funds. If there was damage to a property, is that something that we would remunerate?
Take responsibility, right?
Okay,
And I'm not trying to pin you in, but I think that,
this is, Dan, you know what, you deserve a response, absolutely, and I will get back to you and I'll follow up on this, but not during our city council meeting, not during our meeting, but thank you.
I did it away from the meeting, 10 minutes.
Okay, Dan, honestly, we would normally escort someone out that's being this disruptive. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay.
thanks. I think we would. I mean, if we damaged something, we would repair it while we were, doing something.
Yeah, generally, if we can ascertain that we've damaged something, we repair that. We've directed Mr. Luke to file a claim, and he's done that. So.
Great. Let's see, Ryan talked about speed. Ryan Forsyth talked about speed on getting something improved and having protect access. I agree with all of that. We like the idea of, what I really like about what Ryan said was the idea of a city working together with a developer on what we want to see in the city, and appreciate the fact that he's willing to look at that. Did talk about landscaping and snowplows. I think that's something we would look into, of course, before we made any changes, because the snowplows are a big deal. Let's see, sorry, there was a lot of folks that talked. Brig talked about the parking getting worse. Did we not change this to the one way for that specific reason, for the parking?
Yes, so changing this to a one-way did augment available parking because we added the angle parking. With the width of the street, you can have parking on both sides dedicated, and with the plan that was adopted by the council back in '22, the intent was to have this crosswalk down here moved to a mid-block, and the parking here that's used for City Hall then could be used, evenings, weekends. There's not usually a lot of parking here, but with that mid-block crossing, it would have been easy for people to park, hit that crosswalk button, and walk right across the street to be able to visit the businesses that they would like. So I don't have the exact number on how many parking spots we've added over here, or that may be eliminated if the plan that may happen is put in place. But there, with everything, there's.
But parking's something that we're taking into consideration. I think that the idea that we're wanting this downtown to be a walkable downtown, well, you've got to park and to be able to walk places. And so, I mean, we hope that we can engage a lot of the folks that live in the area to want to walk downtown and to have a reason to walk downtown and have it be beautiful. Involving trails and doing some of those things we can use this money towards. I think there was a big concern by Mr. Bright about financing, and that the CRA encourages substandard borrowers. Can you, I know that, hoping, can you address, I mean, we don't give loans to people from the CRA, is that correct? Or explain maybe a little bit more about how that could be a concern.
So one of the nice things about the TIF increment is that there's a lot of flexibility on how it could be used, right? So when people pay their power bill, that money has to be poured back into the power department. We have other funds, that have an allocation or earmark or certain ways that you can and can't spend it. There's a lot of flexibility with the TIF increment. So to answer your question, the communities that I've worked in my 20-plus years of being here, well, it's not quite that back in Utah, but at any rate, none of the RDAs, the communities that I've lived in or worked in, have offered loans. We could set up a program to save for facade improvements and offer a low interest loan for a business to improve their facade. I don't know if that's what we would do, but as far as like subsidizing loans, I don't see us doing that. I've not heard of that. Again, the places I've worked, that's Grand County, Murray, Pleasant View, and Weber County. We've never had that type of a program. I will say this, that in my experience, I have inherited some really poorly done participation agreements between the redevelopment agency and a private entity, a business, a developer. And that has given great lessons to me on hopefully any agreement we enter into with a developer would have provisions that would protect the city, the RDA, from any type of liability.
And all of those approvals would have to come through the council or through the body, the
correct.
board?
So Mayor Tran mentioned this earlier, but the RDA is just like the council. We have to conduct our business in an open meeting. We have to have agendas that are put out. The RDA doesn't rezone properties. That's only something the council can do. But the RDA can facilitate any type of participation agreements. And again, some of the benefits of that TIF money is that there is a lot of flexibility with it. So we don't have this issue here, but when I worked in Murray, at one point in time, there were 17 different smelters in Murray. They have a lot of contaminated soil. Most developers don't want to buy a property and then spend millions of dollars to clean them up. And so that would be an instance where, if there's a large building that needs to be demolished so redevelopment can happen, those would be some instances where the RDA could assist to have those projects created or actually come to fruition. We don't have really contaminated soil here in Kaysville, which is fantastic. But those are some of the types of things that can traditionally be used to help facilitate the type of development we would like to see. I would not recommend a development agreement or a participation agreement, as they're called with the RDA, that would create anything that did not have a commercial component, right? So our mixed use may have residential, but it has a strong commercial component to it. So would we subsidize somebody to just come in and build townhomes? No. I mean, pretty much every developer that comes in every day wants to do that already. We don't have to. But that's not the type of projects that I would foresee the RDA, assisting with. Just a couple other things that, Jack in the Box will be opening up in the next few weeks here. And those storage units, maybe when they were built, however many years ago, it was a good location for them, but it wasn't. And so, there was a demolition expense to those and relocation of a business maybe. I think they just closed the storage units down. But those are the types of things that we could facilitate through that TIF money to have things happen that just otherwise wouldn't pencil out for a developer.
Awesome. I think last was Tony. I'm glad he stayed. Talked about the housing being a problem. I couldn't agree with you more. I think we talk about that on council constantly. One of our biggest concerns is that there aren't houses being built for beginning families, or for people who have jobs where they're making $65,000 to even $85,000 a year. Unfortunately, I don't think this will solve that. But I hope you know that that's something that's on our mind and that we're constantly trying to figure out ways to encourage developers to build smaller homes that are affordable. I think in the past, just, kind of soapboxing, I feel like the developer's solution to that has been apartment complexes or townhomes that end up being purchased by investors, and then they don't end up really getting the people in there. They end up being rented out. And so just know that that's something on our mind. I don't know that I see this applying to that, but I appreciate you bringing up that concern. And we want those people in Kaysville. We want people to be able to afford to live in our city if they're working here. I think the last thing, I feel like I've addressed most of the questions, at least that I wrote down. For me, when I ran for council, a couple things that I wanted to see improved was I really did want to see 200 North a little bit more beautified. I look at 200 North and I sort of feel like it was hodgepodged a little bit. It would be the word that I'd use. I feel like the setbacks are such that it doesn't quite flow to where I feel like it represents what I feel is Kaysville. And so the idea of money that's going to be there regardless, but now we're being given the chance to be able to use it for our city is extremely appealing to me. I have a hard time understanding why we wouldn't want to, I want to say take advantage of the chance that we have to get that money. We're not raising taxes. It's taxes that will be there. For example, Councilmember Blackham brought up that within this area is going to be a hotel that's already commercial. It's in the commercial section, and some of that money now will be able to be captured in beautifying our city. And you may have to have a little bit of faith in us as the board for this to decide, hey, this is a good use of that money. It's something that people have voted us in would really like to see. Otherwise, we're not going to approve it. And I guess we'll hope that you'll be involved and be there for when those decisions come up. You can come in and say, no, we don't want you to help Kaysville Theater improve their sign, or no, we don't want you to help that building over there that's kind of an eyesore, to give them a little bit of money if they make it less of an eyesore. And if you say that and you're in here and you're saying that, we may say, no, sorry, we're not going to do it because the people have spoken. But if we don't approve this, or if we don't go for it, we'll never even have the choice to do it because we won't have the money. Unless we raise your taxes, which I don't want to do. So I have a hard time seeing why this wouldn't be a good thing, but I'm also comfortable enough to delay it a couple of weeks if everybody else decides that as far as a decision, so that if more people want to come out and tell us their concerns, they can. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Council. Appreciate all of your input and your insights. I'm going to just quickly recap a couple things. We will then turn the mic over to Melinda to present the interlocal agreement for consideration. We'll then open it up for public comment, because we do have people that have signed up to speak to this item. We wanted to address your concerns that were brought up during the public hearing. The public hearing is not a platform or a time where we respond to those comments. It's public hearing. And so that's why we didn't answer the questions then. So we're glad for those who have stayed, and hopefully people are going to continue listening. Like as we've mentioned earlier, this is just a starting point. No decisions about any projects have been planned. No decisions about how any money, even a dollar of it, has been planned or talked about. We're just looking for an opportunity to provide an economic development tool for the city. It is at the priority of our council, and I hope that you have seen that, and we've proven this over the last couple of years, is to be transparent, to communicate with you. We can't get the word out to every single person. As the mayor, I would love to be in charge of the whole city and like in the details and in the weeds with every single thing that goes on, but I physically can't do that. That's why we have multiple departments, and we have management responsibilities, we have administrative, legislative duties. I try to be as involved as possible, but I don't look at the website all the time, and I don't check for email, for updates constantly. So there are some things that, like we've said, it's a clunky process. What you've seen before you has been discussed. We want to make sure that you're involved in every step of this process. We hope that we've earned your trust. We've been working really hard to be able to establish trust and accountability with our residents. And so this, and this still hasn't been approved by the taxing entities. The next step would be the interlocal agreement would either get an approval or a denial by the council. If it's denied, then it dies. The whole project dies. If it's approved, then we go back to those taxing entities and we say, okay, this is the interlocal agreement. Now will you agree to the terms? And that's another discussion. So we don't have any firm approvals on anything, but what it does do is it gives us a tool. We look around our city, which is fantastic. I've lived here more than 30 years. I will die here. I love Kaysville. We all do. But we look at some areas that aren't developing necessarily. And it's not like we want a super Walmart on their property. We don't. We're not trying to run anyone out of business or change our city. We want to enhance what we have. We want to respond to the needs and the requests of our community, which are to give us a reason to stay in our city. Give us a reason to shop here, to eat here, to do business here, to take dance lessons here. Anything that's going on, we want to just make it even better. So we're not trying to change anything. So this just gives us a tool and opportunity. Most of the questions were addressed. People have talked about traffic, housing. The plan is so broad that we even talked about a potential parking structure. We know that parking can be cumbersome. And we are trying to think not just 6 months out, we're trying to think 10, 20 years out. What does the future of Kaysville look like? And this is just a tiny bit of money. Most cities are getting $15 million CRA approvals. We aren't because we just honestly don't have space to develop. So within what we can develop, we had a bigger area before, and the taxing entity said, no, you can't include your whole city. You have to shrink it down and be reasonable about it. And we're saying, okay, in these areas, this is what we're hoping to see. We're just hoping to help provide tools, some economic stimulus for companies that want to be in business, want to stay in business. We want to look at our city and say, how can we make it better without changing it? So I'm restating myself, and I'm starting to ramble. I just want you to know that every decision that we make moving forward, and in the past, we bring these things to public meetings. We are not a council that has little conversations and we do deals behind closed doors. Everything is very open and transparent. So continue to listen, continue to engage. We appreciate you being willing to reach out to us. I will quickly turn the time, Mike, to Melinda, just to talk about what an interlocal agreement could look like, what we have presented, and then we'll turn the mic over to you for public comment, and then it will come back to council discussion. We'll take a vote, and then we'll go from there, okay?
Thank you. I did want to mention just one more thing. The city, we were able to receive a grant for $140,000 to conduct a small area plan. We will kick off that process in the next couple of months, and the small area plan is intended to do a deeper dive into this city center concept that was included in the general plan so that we can have more detailed feedback and response from business owners, from the public, to see, again, in greater detail what we would like to have happen when properties develop over the next however long. So that will be, I think, a beacon for us to, that process will probably take 9 months, a year. That'll be a beacon for us to look to say, hey, is this project that's been proposed by a developer something that fits or does it not? And there will be an extensive public involvement process with that small area plan. So we'll be getting that information out again in the next couple months when a consultant is selected. And that is, by the way, it's full transparency. The money's coming from Wasatch Front Regional Council. We did have to provide a match, but the award of that consultant and that agreement will not come to the city council. It's a contract essentially through Wasatch Front and the consultant, but the work is done for us. But that'll be another great way for us to really refine in greater detail what the public would like to see. So an interlocal agreement is an agreement that is made between public entities. So this particular item in front of the city is kind of weird because this would be an interlocal agreement between Kaysville City as one entity and the redevelopment board or the redevelopment agency as a separate agency, even though we're the same people, and I think the goals are right. The council's goals are the redevelopment agency's goals. But an interlocal agreement just is that agreement between parties, whether it's the county, the school district, mosquito abatement, and the city or the RDA. And there's provisions in state law that allow these agreements to be made. So the terms for this particular agreement, I went over there earlier, but this would be for Kaysville City to say, hey, we're going to participate at a higher rate than what we're asking the taxing entities, because we believe in this. We think we could do some good. So this would formalize the agreement that the city would allow 80% of those new property tax revenues, the growth, to be sent over to the RDA and used as the RDA board defines in the future when projects come up. And it allows the city to keep that 20%. I'm going to talk in some very general numbers here. Right now, let's say we are receiving $1 million a year in property tax revenues. We would continue to receive that $1 million even if this interlocal is approved. But over the course of the 15 years, right, if that then ends up being $10 million a year, the city would keep the 20% in addition to what we're already receiving, and then the extra 80% would go over to the redevelopment agency. And then it is with a community reinvestment project area like this, it is hard to define what those future projects would be. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what will develop and when, but those are handled on a case-by-case basis when projects come in and conversations start. So this would just be the city saying, hey, we agree with what the RDA is proposing here, and the next step, if the council approves this, would be the redevelopment agency has to approve the interlocal agreement. So I think that's really about it. It just formalizes that 80%, 20% for the 15 years.
Thank you so much. Okay, thanks for being patient with us, everyone. We have 7 people signed up to speak. You'll have your 3 minutes, and please state your name so that we have it as part of the record. The first individual signed up is Paul Himley, not sure about the last name. Jill Dredge, Jason Largy, Nedra Saunders, Lorene Starkey, Val Starkey, and then Gary McBride. If you'll come up in that order if you're still here. No Paul? Okay, I don't see Paul. No one's raising their hand. No one's coming forward. Okay, let's move to Jill. You're good, Jill? Okay, thank you. Jason.
All right, Jason Largy. So I'll start this off. I mean, I've been here a lot in the last year, and I have to believe that the council's acting in good faith. Otherwise, this is all just a waste of time. But I feel like we're misinformed. We're not quite ready. I just got to say, personally, I've lost some. Last meeting we had when we talked about the moderate income housing overlay. Trust was lost for me with the city planning team and the staff, and I'll say exactly how, which then will play to some of these things. Councilmember Hunt asked, what happens if we don't pass this now? What happens if we don't vote? What if we say no to getting that approved? And the answer was, we'll have to go revise the city plan, lots of last minute work, lots of bad things, or, because we said we were going to do it. So either this answer wasn't true, or the plan that was displayed on the slides and things was incorrect. So one of the two was wrong because they didn't agree. What was displayed said that the city plan said in 2024 a text amendment would be presented to the planning commission. That had been done in the planning commission meeting. It got approved. Then the next step could be in 2024 a text amendment would be presented to the city council. The meeting met the requirements of the plan. Nothing in the plan said it had to be approved in 2024. And it was just misrepresented that if we don't do this now, we got to change the plan. We'd met the plan just by having the meeting last week. There was a question about how long do we have. The law has a 5-year implementation requirement. We're in year 2. So the need to go do anything wasn't there. And we were pushed and rushed in a meeting where there was lots of questions, lots of red lines, there was lots of things that weren't there. And I believe there's great intentions. And I believe there's great intentions with this, but I really believe there's lots of things we aren't aware of. You know, the idea that no rezoning is part of this, and it can't happen. The state legislature is made up of overly predominantly developers. There's lots of things in the law I don't think we know. There's lots of things, these CRAs, these other things. I don't believe that these developers are making offers on homes to residents in residential things to go do multi-unit, high-density, vertical housing, and now I know of multiples of those where they've received letters saying, hey, we want to do this with you. I don't believe that they're doing that with the idea that maybe they can do something. They're not willing to sit and pay interest on a property they can't do anything with. I think they know the backdoor deals that's in the law that you're not going to be able to say no to. I've heard a lot of, we're just going to say no. We're not going to approve it if it doesn't meet what we have. I think they know more than you about how these work and what's in there that you're not aware of yet. I'm scared. I'm scared with the whole in moderate income housing thing, with other things that have been put into the law, other things that are in the code. I think you need more time to figure out why these people are making these offers, because they are. You're very optimistic, that's awesome, but where's our caution? I feel like we don't have enough.
Thank you. Ms. Saunders? You're good. Okay, thank you. Lorraine?
Okay. I said mine too, Laureen Starkey, but I was sitting next to someone who did not, and I don't think it's still here, so I will say what I just heard that I thought was extremely interesting, and I would like to reiterate it. A lot has been said about this plan has been in the works for 4 years. And this person mentioned what was happening 4 years ago. Maybe we'd like to review what was happening 4 years ago. And my husband has carefully looked through the city plan and the Y2K analytics. And I have looked there too, and I've had some neighbors mention to me that this is a very, very liberal company and that it's possible to word surveys to direct people to say things that maybe they don't really care about. And I did read in the Y2K analytics that we did want to keep a hometown and that we do want to keep things as simple as they are and maybe not go to some of the other thing that he mentioned that I really, really appreciate is a referral to something that was on my daughter's Christmas tree when she ripped up her credit cards. And maybe you can address this because maybe it is really, truly that we only use the funds that are there. Namely, it's taxed. We get the extra taxes and we use it. But if it is borrowed, any of it is borrowed, just a reminder from Proverbs that the rich ruleth over the poor and the borrower is the servant or the slave to the lender, so that there will be, if where city is borrowing to do this work, then we might want to reconsider whether we want to be the slaves or the servants to the lender, and we would like to pay as we go. And maybe that is, maybe we will be paying as we go. But I really liked those ideas that what were we doing in 2020, and everybody was sitting home with masks and trapped. And maybe we don't want to be trapped into an agreement that we have not thoroughly, the public has not as thoroughly vetted as maybe we'd like. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bill?
Is this about only interlocal agreement?
Yes, it is.
Mine's about the RPA.
Okay, thank you. That's next on our agenda. Okay, Gary? I don't see Gary. I do think he spoke earlier, didn't he? And I don't see him in the audience. Okay. All right, thank you for your comments, everyone. Now I will turn it to council for discussion. What would you guys like to do? And do you have any thoughts about this?
Well, I
Councilmember
kind of
Blackham?
wanted to address Mr. Largy's comment.
Okay.
You're absolutely correct. I don't have a crystal ball, and I do not know what the legislature is going to force the cities to do. I do not know what mandate they are going to make that will say that we have to do the development they say they want. But at least with this tool, we'll be able to capture the tax increment of what we're told we have to do. That's what I see out of it. So I don't see the downside of this actual tool. I see the downside of the legislature telling cities what to do. I definitely see that. But with this tool, if we're told and forced to do something, at least we can get the tax increment from it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Oaks.
Yeah, I think we've had a lot of great discussion. I really appreciate the comments from the public hearing. We've also received a number of emails from concerned constituents, and mostly on the timing. Just on regardless of how we're here on the 2nd of January, we're here on the 2nd of January. I won't propose a motion yet, but I plan on proposing a motion that we just put off the vote till our council meeting on the 16th. That would allow those who would not able to be here tonight, not for another public hearing, but if they wanted to come and voice concerns during their 3 minutes, we'd give them the opportunity. I don't personally see a lot of downside in the RDA and the interlocal agreement, but I would just, again, I will make a motion when it comes time for that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Point of order, Mayor?
Councilmember Adams?
One of the things you mentioned was, or that Starkey was asking, had to do with you'd said that we're going to vote on the RDA. I don't believe we are voting on the RDA, right? It still has to be approved by.
Right.
And then it comes back to us after the two bodies agree?
So no, what would happen would be the council would make a recommendation. Based upon our recommendation, then we would have the RDA meeting. And as an RDA body, we could postpone a vote at that point, or we could postpone it as a city council at this point. We can do either. But I believe once it goes to the RDA and we make it a motion, that's an entity. So we don't go back to council to make another motion, right? Will you clarify, Nick? Okay, yes. Does that make sense?
I think that
Okay.
makes sense.
And I was just going to mention, we have been working on this for several years, and it's fine if we postpone it for a couple weeks to give people an opportunity. I think that's completely fine. I recommend that also, if the council wills that. We can make that. We could vote to approve the interlocal as a council, and then we could vote to not approve it as an RDA and postpone that. Then it doesn't have to come back to a council meeting, it goes to the RDA meeting. Is that correct, Nick?
Yeah.
Or we can have it come back to both meetings. So council, this will be your decision to make. I think either way, I don't know that it makes a difference because both meetings are noticed equally. I do think that maybe if it's not on a council agenda, maybe people won't really pay attention. So it might be a good idea to make a decision at this point to postpone. That's probably my recommendation, but what would you guys like to do?
I can make a motion.
Councilmember Black.
I've been working on this for 4.5 years. I don't care if we wait 2 more weeks. I really don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have
Okay.
a problem with that at all.
I'll make a motion
thank
if
you.
you're
Okay,
if you're privy to it.
are you okay, Perry? I know you said you wanted to make a
No,
motion.
Mike, go ahead.
Okay, John? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Adams.
Thank you. I should cede to my elder.
You're great at making
and
motions.
BYU won, and so clearly I bow to you for another year. I'll make a motion that we table action item A, approval of an interlocal agreement between Kaysville Redevelopment Agency and Kaysville City for the Kaysville City Center Community Reinvestment Plan and Budget.
Can I second that?
Sure,
Oh, is that correct?
point of clarification. If we table this motion, how about, is it better if we postpone a decision rather than table it, or does it matter? If we,
It's the same thing.
it's the same, okay, perfect. All right, we have a motion to table this agreement for a later discussion, right? Or was that not part of
Yeah,
your motion?
with the hope, I guess with the hopes I could friendly amend my own motion, or can I at this time, that it would be 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, I think
Is-
that
is
was
that a new
kind of
motion,
the
or is that okay?
implication that I
Yeah, it's the
understood.
implication, okay, and Perry seconded.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Jackson.
Aye.
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 Okay.
Did Mike vote?
Mike
No, I
can go.
didn't.
Did I go before you?
I just wanted to say before I voted, I'm going to say aye, but I hope I see a lot of information come that I don't know. I'm hoping something comes in that I've missed. Anyway, aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Another holiday weekend?
All right. Okay.
And then the next one's
We-
President's Weekend, the next in
Th- th-
February.
I think that is President's Weekend, isn't
No,
it?
there's the 20th. I think she's talking about the 20th.
Oh, Martin Luther Civil. Okay.
That's on a Monday.
It's on a Monday.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so the motion carries.
Can I make a motion to reconsider?
You certainly can.
Reconsider what?
Sure.
Okay.
Wait, we
The
all.
date, do we want to do it?
Oh,
Do we
a
want to
second.
reconsider the fact that it's a holiday?
No.
What holiday?
There's always something.
But it's the Thursday,
Well, right,
the
but maybe there's
Thursday
something
before.
less.
Yeah, we will all be here, right? I mean, it's the duty of the
We
council
do.
to be here. And make
Well, and good point from the audience, even though we really would discourage points from the audience. The problem is we have how many federal holidays? 14. I think there are 14 federal holidays, 2 state holidays, 2 or 3 state holidays. There's always going to be something, but as long as we are completely noticing people, I think I'm comfortable with it. Whatever you guys want to do, feel free. So we have a motion that passed, but you can make a friendly amendment to the motion or a new motion.
We have a motion to reconsider, Mayor, and that needs to either be seconded, or it will die in the original motion will stay.
Okay. And your motion to reconsider is to postpone it to when?
Well, the motion to reconsider is just to reconsider, right? Do I need to have a specific date, or?
You could do either one.
Oh, okay.
Oh, mine was just so that we discussed it and made sure we were all comfortable with that
Oh.
revelation of information.
Well, I'll second her so we can discuss it.
Okay, so we have, okay. Councilmember Oaks.
I'm not quite sure what you're doing.
So we have a second for the motion to reconsider the date, so we can discuss it, which we already did discuss it, but we have a motion on the table.
Nay.
Just trying to make sure we're all good.
You want a different date? You want a different date is what you want?
That's the motion, to reconsider this,
Just to reconsider, we don't have to change it.
just to have more discussion.
You can 2 weeks, 4 weeks, I don't at this point, I don't. So I'll.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, motion carries to reconsider. So now we have a motion to reconsider, so we're having a discussion. When would you like to have this on the agenda, council?
Well, I'd still, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to think, Martin Luther King Jr. Day is the following Monday. Is school off Thursday and Friday? I don't think it is. I think school's off Monday, so, and I'm not, maybe someone out in the audience has something planned that Thursday, Ms. Romney, but I don't know that people will be out of town that Thursday leading up to the Monday.
So we're talking about January 17th, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm okay keeping it where it was. I just wanted to discuss it because I felt like it's okay to discuss it.
The 16th, not the 17th.
Oh, the 6th. So this would be a motion to reconsider the,
Just so we could talk about
Okay.
it. But yeah, I really don't think we need to change the day. I don't think people are going to be out of town Thursday for the following Monday holiday.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yeah, we heard quite a bit concern about this meeting tonight, that a lot of folks will be out of town, but we had a full house. We had people standing. And, we want to be sympathetic as possible, but it's our job to keep going and keep the ball moving. And as far as I know, we'll probably all be here. That Thursday and Friday, all kids are going to be in school still, and so I'm inclined to keep it. I just want to move forward. Another point I want to make is we're going to get into budget season. We have so much on our plate coming up that I kind of want to move the business along. So,
I also am glad we talked about it, but I'd like to keep the date.
Okay. Okay, so we had a motion consider, which we just did. So motion stands. Original motion?
Because
Or do we need a new-
reconsidered it, I think we need another
We
motion.
need a new motion. Okay.
Sorry.
All right, new motion. Would someone like to make a motion?
Your turn, Perry.
Okay, Perry.
Wait, do we have to vote? Do we have to vote on the reconsideration?
I make a
Okay.
motion that we go back to Councilmember Adams' original motion.
I'll second. You're not stealing
Oh, I was
that
going to
from me.
steal it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilmember
Oaks.
Oaks.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. This will be on the agenda for January 16th, so please come back. All right. Next agenda item is number 5B, an ordinance amending Chapter 17-33 sign regulations to allow for electronic message center signs in public use zones. Melinda.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The item before you is a little bit different than the one that was initially presented to the Planning Commission. They only chose to forward a portion of the proposed text amendment to the council for approval. And that is to add in right here to this matrix to allow electronic message centers in the public use zone. Currently, we have one out here that I don't know how it got approved because it's against zoning, but that was before me. It would bring this sign into compliance, and our Parks and Recreation Department is wanting to put in an EMC at Barnes Park. This is a great way to communicate with the public as they drive by, another avenue for us to get information out about public hearings and meetings and that type of a thing. But under my stewardship, I would not approve that because it's not allowed. So if the council would like to legalize our existing illegal non-conforming sign here and also allow a sign in Barnes Park or any other public use zone, the text amendment here to just add in the public use zone as allowed for the electronic message center would be the avenue to approve that. We did hold a public hearing on this with the Planning Commission at our December 12th meeting. We did not receive any comments, and the Planning Commission voted unanimously 6-0 to forward the portion of the public use zone to City Council for action. The other part of the initial proposal was remanded back to staff for more work, and so we will work on that in the future, but this is what the Planning Commission sent to you, and Cole Stevens, our Parks and Recreation Director, has came to me a couple months ago and said, how do we make this happen? This would be that. And so he's essentially waiting to see if this gets approved to try and put a bid out to get the sign proposals to hopefully have that done within the next few months, if that's the council's will. So
Okay.
we are recommending approval based on the recommendation from the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Council members, Councilmember Oaks.
Yeah, I did, just one comment. The sign for Barnes Park was the #1 item that came out of the ramp for this year. So the ramp committee, that was the #1 thing they recommended. So I,
Good. Councilmember Jackson.
I have a question and a comment. Question, so how large would this sign be? Has Cole kind of mentioned that, as the city talked about it? Would it be similar to what we have out in front here?
I think it would be similar in size. The code, as it stands, has regulations based on frontage as to how large that sign could be. So we would just follow the regulations outlined in the rest of the code that's not included in the slide that I had before. So I think, in fact, let me say this. The largest sign that would be possible, and I don't mean the height, but the largest sign that would be possible is the one that is now out by the Pickler and GG Pip. That's as big as our code would allow an EMC sign to be. I don't think we're going to do something that big. I think it would be, more appropriately sized like what we have here. But I have not had that discussion with Cole, so I don't know for sure.
Okay. And actually, a follow-up to that. So the sign would likely be placed on 200 North, and can you speak to how far it needs to be away from homes? I imagine it will probably be closer to Maverick and.
Yeah, I don't know
In
the
the park,
location that he's planning on, but the sign code has a provision, any electronic message sign has to go to the Planning Commission for a conditional use permit. Those are the types of things that we would consider when we approve that. My belief is that the sign would be oriented in a north-south fashion. If it were to be east-west, that would have more of an impact on homes if there were homes nearby. But I think it would be that orientation of the north-south, which should mitigate if there are homes. Obviously, the homes would be across the street as well, so we would look at the distance and how that may impact, and that could be a condition that the Planning Commission could put on that sign. As well as hours of operation, as it says, height. My guess is that sign, and again, I don't think this is what the Parks Department is looking at, but that sign could probably be as tall as 30 feet with the location and the proximity to I-15. But I think we are looking more at like a monument type sign like we have out here.
All right, Councilmember Hunt.
Melinda, can you speak to some of the discussions we had? We have had some issues with EMCs in the past, and just kind of what the Planning Commission has done to tighten that up. Just because Councilmember Jackson talked about it, and I'm having a hard time, pulling to mind exactly what we did to put those protections in place.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we had 2 signs that were approved through the zoning approval and the building permit process that did not go through the Planning Commission beforehand. So that limited our ability in some ways to respond and place appropriate conditions. But I think the one you're speaking about is the one over at Charlie's Car Wash. And that was kind of bright as heck initially. We worked with them. The Planning Commission was able to put some conditions on reducing the brightness. And this may sound counterintuitive, but that sign is they're only allowed to be 30 feet tall. Other signs a little bit closer to I-15 could be 45 feet tall. If it would have been taller, it wouldn't have shown through the windows of the townhomes that were across Main Street 450 feet away. But that height of 30 feet is kind of that perfect height to have it, especially come in like through a second story window. So it seems a little bit counterintuitive, but those would be the types of things, right, based on our experience, we would look at how bright. We can turn it off at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. So that there's not interference, through neighboring properties with any light intrusion.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this one, we'll make sure it comes to the Planning Commission before it's actually constructed and operating.
Okay, any other questions? Nope. All right, would someone like to make a motion?
I will. I'll make a motion, we approve the action item B, an ordinance amending Chapter 1733 sign regulations to allow for electronic message center signs in the public use zones.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Blackham.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Councilmember reports. Does anyone have anything they'd like to report on?
I do.
Councilmember Blackham.
Okay, so just some notes of interest. 200 North project will start tearing up the road in about 2 weeks between Main and 200 East. Mutton Hollow Road project will start the 1st of February. Rail Trail Webb Lane bathroom, since we approved the thing, will start and end and probably the end of will start at the end of January. That will be the beginning date. Jack in the Box will open the first week in February. The Ogden Clinic open house is on January 14th, 5:30. We'll see you all there. Stop signs will be going at the top of Crestwood on the west side of the bridge as soon as staff gets those in.
Fantastic. Thank you. Anyone else? I think you covered it. Okay, all right. Jason Christensen for our city manager report.
Mayor, I'll just put my comments in the report tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you. Well, thanks everyone for being here. Would like a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So, just for everyone watching who is still, and people who are still here, our next agenda item would be the Kaysville City Redevelopment Agency Board meeting. We have nothing before us to approve, and so we're not going to have that meeting. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it would just be right after. Thank you. Great. Yeah. Well, no, just when there's. Oh wait, we do.
So yeah, I mean we have
Okay. Back at it, guys. Sorry, I did something out of order. So Jill, can you give us just a minute? We have to go back to the redevelopment. Sorry, I did that incorrectly. Okay. Val, could you give us just 1 minute? Okay.
Since it's already on the agenda and it's
okay.
been publicly noticed, I
Okay.
think
We need
the appropriate thing would be to make a motion similar to the action in the council meeting,
Okay.
and we would bring this back on January 16th, unless the RDA wanted to vote on this now. But I think the appropriate action would be to have that discussion and motion.
Okay, I will reopen. Well,
Don't we
I'll-
have to
let-
exist first, or do we already exist?
I don't think we need a motion to open the meeting, do we?
RDA.
Okay, all right, let's, okay.
And there
What
were
we're gonna
actually,
do-
sorry, there are actually two items on the
right.
RDA, so agenda.
on
The
each.
one, the council just chose to postpone, and then the second one, which would be between the redevelopment agency and the county. And the county commission, that's what they approved on the 19th of November. We would have to approve that on our end if we want that interlocal agreement to be valid. So perfectly acceptable to
Okay.
push this to the next meeting if that's the wish of the
Okay.
RDA.
All right, so let's convene the Kaysville City Redevelopment Agency Board meeting. We have 2 items on our agenda as board members. Council members serve as board members. The first is an approval of an interlocal agreement between the Kaysville Redevelopment Agency and Davis County for the Kaysville City Community Reinvestment Plan and Budget. So no action was taken during city council, and so we need a motion to postpone this approval, right?
Yep.
Okay, who would like to make that?
Yeah, I'll make that motion. Can I make it a motion that we push both of them off? I will make a motion that we push number 2 and number 3 to the 16th of January.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to postpone item 2 and item 3 to the 16th of January, pending city council's approval of that item. We have a motion and we have a second. Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
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 Okay, all right, motion carries. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
So
Okay,
moved.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for that point of order. We've never had that happen before, so. Yeah, you are sharp.